The only thing I'm seeing I'd like to put an amend on, perhaps a little more room here for the fixins. You know what I'm talking about?
Ooh, we're gonna have a lot of fixins?
We're gonna have so many fucking fixins up in this motherfucker. This shit's gonna go through the roof, man. God damn, I'm shitting gold these days.
We made it. We made it. The devil, the hate.
Buy this car to drive to work to pay for this car. Buy this car to drive to work.
Welcome to Yellow Brick Road. I'm Jordan, and today we're gonna react to Jimmy Dore having an interview with a Boogaloo boy. Boogaloo, what the freak, bro? But first, please share and hopefully donate to Devon's journey to recovery. GoFundMe link is in the description box. Share that shit. Share it on Twitter. In fact, go under this Sam Seder tweet and just start sharing Devon's journey to recovery. All you gotta do is right click on the link, copy it, and then paste it in a reply to Sam Seder. That's all you gotta do. The cunt, Sam Seder. Please do it. Devon's journey to recovery. GoFundMe link in the description box. Alright, so as you can see here, this tweet from Sam Seder, I just went over it in the last video. To recap, I was yelled, he's talking about the debate with Brianna Joy Gray. To recap, I was yelled at for 3 hours for thinking that the leader of Force the Vote, Jimmy Dore, saying AOC is the reason we don't have Medicare for all was unhelpful. And in that very moment, he was praising an armed right-wing militiaman who wants to destroy government, which undoes Medicare for all. Hashtag pod fraud. My speaker turned off. Come on, you fucking. There we go. Which undoes Medicare for all. I think he meant undoes. Right? I think so. So you'll see this a lot in regards to how people deal with Jimmy Dore when he's right on the issues. When he's correct about it, what they do is they say, well, he took money from a pro-Assad group. They'll say shit like that, just like any type of corporate creeper does with anyone they think might mean well. I don't know, Bernie, you might have a lot of Russian support. Hey, Tulsi, aren't you an apologist for Bashar al-Assad? Even though you ended up getting it right? Well, I don't want to say she got it right, but... Oh, she got it right in regards to, like, hey, maybe we should ask questions about this. And Jimmy got it right as in, like, oh, this shit was debunked. But, that doesn't matter. All I need is to say something like this to attract enough dipshits to keep my public persona going. So, you know what? Instead of making judgments and saying, well, whether or not Sam is correct about this, even though this has nothing to do with that argument, but see, look, he's praising this guy or whatever. It's like, instead of just saying like, oh, this sounds like horseshit, let's go watch it. Let's watch it and react together. Let's do it. Here we go. This is from the Jimmy Dore Show YouTube channel. Radicalized mission anarchist seeks unity with the left. Sounds scary already. Here we go.
Hey, a few days ago, I played a video of a guy speaking at the Michigan State Capitol, and to me, he looked like a right-wing gun guy. But his speech was super surprising. He identifies as a Boogaloo boy, and the young man reached out to us,
Boogaloo.
And I had the opportunity to hear straight from the source, which is always better. So corporate media can't be trusted, and corporate media is about creating fear and sensationalism. And
Now, Jimmy has merits to say that. To say, we can't just trust the mainstream narrative of anyone, about anyone. You can't just do that. Sam can, because he quasi works for them, or with them. So he could do that, but you can't, not someone who wants to make an honest argument. That can't happen. And by the way, this is me going to make an honest argument, right? Because I've pointed out my faults with Jimmy Dore. I've pointed out my faults with Sam Seder. I point out my faults with anyone and everyone or whatever. So, this might be the most honest take you hear. Did I just do PR right there? I think so. Keeping it. I'm keeping it, though. It's good PR. I like it. Here we go.
I'm going to presume that this guy is genuine. The question I always think about is how do we reach out to fellow work opportunity to hear straight from the source, which is always better. So corporate media can't be trusted, and corporate media is about creating fear and sensationalism. And I'm going to presume that this guy is genuine. The question I always think about is how do we reach out to fellow working people like this? How do we find common interests? There are no easy answers, and these are...
A cunt will find a way to make that, a cunt will find a way to find that as offensive or wrong to do, to reach out to other people. Should I play that Fred Hampton clip where he's talking to black, white, brown, yellow? Is that racist? I say Asian is yellow. Where he's like, this is like, we're all a part of this together. Trying to unify everyone. Maybe that era they just shoot you in the face, and maybe this era they shoot your persona in the face. They try to publicly assassinate you in a way. But here we go.
Always uncomfortable questions. And I'm not just talking about this in an academic theory kind of way, but in real world terms. We can't ignore this is happening in the country, and it's going to get worse. Working people are being brutalized. People are alienated, disillusioned. People know they've been abandoned by their government, and now they're looking for community. They're looking for tribes and looking for connection because we live in a failed state and a failed society. This pandemic has made it explicitly clear that our government has abandoned its people. And how do we talk to them? Is the left going to turn into Hillary Clinton and call them deplorables and discard them? Instead of demonizing people...
If you're Sam, yeah. But, he rocks with Hillary like that.
Because they don't hold the exact same set-in-stone ideology that we have. And if you actually traveled around America, as I have, you will find people's ideologies are wildly inconsistent and always in flux and constantly changing. If there are people who are pro-LGBTQ, against war, against the corporate dominance of the state, people who reject the two-party duopoly and who work alongside Black Lives Matter and Antifa, and they want a general strike, well, we have to be able to talk to those people. Because if we can't talk to those people, that's bad.
It's kind of like that thing I was bringing up about trying to read their intention. Oh, this person seems like they mean well. They're an idiot, but they mean well. I say that phrase quite a bit. And that's what Jimmy's trying to say. Like, yeah, this policy is absolute dog shit in my opinion, but I believe this person is trying to implement this dog shit policy because they think it will actually help. Help towards what? Helping other people. That's what's meant by well-meaning, and you don't have to agree with how they express their well-meaningness. But that's nothing worth caring about. It's all about their stated policy. Do they take corporate money or not? As we can see, the squad doesn't take corporate money, yet people are shitting all over them. If it's not about intention, why not let George W. Bush run Medicare for all? What if he proposed it? Would you be all for it? I mean, it's stated on paper he supports Bernie Sanders' Medicare for all. If that doesn't make you anywhere near suspicious, then I don't know what to tell you. You're essentially like a simp, right? That'd be the word? A simp? Or are those French fries? Maybe later. Let's continue.
That shows the weakness on our side. Yes, I would rather have the dudes with guns protecting Black Lives Matter protests instead of them threatening Black Lives Matter protests. Social movements should always be in dialogue. I presume this interview that I did with this young man is going to be used to attack me.
He was right. He was right, wasn't he? I'm sure it'll be used against me. Yep. By people that are... But wait. The people that are using it against you, Jimmy, they're anti-establishment independent journalists. There's no way they would do that unless there was some merit to it. That's the illusion. That's the PR. That's what the Seder fans and the TYT fans and people like that are going to buy into. Because, once again, they're so dumb that they read things strictly on the surface. We have some Driftwood followers here. That just... Nancy couldn't have supported the war because she said she's against war. So, yeah. No, Bill Clinton wouldn't do that because he said he wouldn't. That's enough for me. Unreal.
And this interview is not an endorsement of any group because I don't know how representative this person is of an entire group. I'm dropping the entire interview, and I think you'll find the conversation is full of surprises. All right, so we have our first guest on. I'm going to get in big trouble for talking to this gentleman.
Boogaloo boy.
We first saw our guest speak in a video of him in the front of the Michigan State Capitol. He made critiques of the war, of the wars, not just the war. He made critiques of the wars and the corporate-controlled state. He called for unity of the American people and of social movements. Well, let's play a little bit of it, shall we?
Antifa, Boogaloo, and right-wing militias, they are the antibodies, not the disease that is destroying our country. The disease is a country run by two corrupt political parties that do not care about you. So deeply incestuous with corporations that they are indistinguishable from each other. A government that spent 6 months debating whether to give their own people $600, but only 24 hours to unanimously agree to give billions of dollars to foreign tyrannical governments and corporations. A government that has bombed villages overseas my entire life for my supposed safety here. This is a call for unity. For all of American people that realize the true threat against us to come together. For every mother mourning her children that was killed by police. For every business crushed down by state lockdowns. For every broken soldier sent to fight wars that have no point. This is our last chance to avoid either a tyrannical government or a bloody and pointless civil war among American people who do not have that much against each other and have more in common than they realize. And a message to the government. We come in peace. We do not intend to commit violence. But I am pleading with you, with tears in my eyes and cracks in my voice. If you continue to oppress the American people, they will remain rational no longer. Thank you.
What do you mean by that?
Oh,
So, it's like I've brought this up before in regards to like the hero archetype, right? And let's be honest, there's a lot of guys who join the military with that hero archetype. Not saying it's the best version of this thing or that it's not disconnected from other aspects of an individual, but it's still like, there's the bad guy. We go and we beat up the bad guy, right? That's a minor expression of the hero archetype. It's like, wouldn't you want those guys like on your side? You know, a healthy version on your side. Not saying these guys have a healthy version. I'm just saying that archetype, that thing where it's like, if you don't do this, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. And you see a 6'4" fucking grizzly man, like, what? As opposed to, oh, no, please don't hurt me. Nothing wrong with nerds, just saying. You want all your protests to be guys in clown suits, like dancing, like, we're dancing for unity. Don't you want like a savage near you too? You know, anyone who's like well-meaning, don't you want that around you? Even if you disagree about how they go about it. It's like, oh, you guys can work that out together rather than just, they're racist right-wing militia, fuck them. Keep them away. No discussion at all. That's what I expect grifters to say. But, here we go.
okay. So I played that with Ron Placone on our show the other day, and we couldn't find anything in that speech we disagreed with, and I wanted to explore his beliefs further. So he was kind enough to reach out to us, and he goes by the name, ready? Magnus Panvidya. And there's a story behind that name. Please welcome to the show, Magnus Panvidya. Hi, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks, Jimmy. Nice to meet you. It's kind of crazy that I'm here. I would have never expected to end up here, but long-time fan.
I would never expect to be talking to a right-wing guy in a Hawaiian shirt. I never thought that was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit more of an anarchist, but
Oh, okay. All right. We'll get it.
happens.
So let's get into it. Let's get in. First of all, tell people how you got your name. Now, I found out that your parents were hippies.
Yeah, I was raised in the middle of nowhere next to a little pagan hippie commune that I used to go to. I used to be an environmental activist my whole life. So, yeah, kind of not what you would expect for most people.
Wow. Okay. So, and how did you get the name?
We had to come up with kind of our own names on the commune. We didn't want to go by our own names, so everybody had their witchy, hippie D&D names essentially. So I came up with that when I was like 13. I've used it ever since.
So now that is not. So are you
that's a
okay?
dildo being
So that is not what
blotted
people
out.
think of when they think of right-wing militia types,
giant dildo.
or the Proud Boys or Boogaloos or anything. That's not what they think. They don't think of a guy brought up on a commune, got to pick his own name. His parents are hippies, and he spent most of his life as an environmental activist. That's not what people think of. So how did you go from that to Boogaloo Boys?
Oh, that's just because kind of the whole thing the media doesn't talk about with the Boogaloo Boys is we're more of like the libertarian Green Party militia. Like if I wanted to join a regular militia that flies Confederate flags and it's a bunch of fat old white dudes, that's there. But we kind of formed out of a bunch of libertarians and anti-war activists and everything wanting a place of our own. And that kind of goes hand in hand with the colorful Hawaiian print and, a lot of our members being LGBT and, across the entire, every ethnicity, every spectrum. And we wanted more of a home for ourselves. So we kind of grew out of not wanting to be the traditional right-wing conservative white dude militia.
So you're not about hating gays, and you don't hate the gays?
Nope.
Okay. Well, I was told that.
Matter of fact, I'm not the most straight man myself, so.
Oh, well, you better. Okay, watch out.
Team sus. What?
So, Jude Law, is that your guy? That's my guy. I don't know who you I don't know who you go
Orlando
for.
Bloom, actually.
So,
They let me watch too much Lord of the Rings as a kid.
so now
Amy
I already
K
got in
all
trouble for
day,
even
bro.
playing your video on my. When I say in trouble, I mean the usual bad faith attackers came at me. The people who want to keep us divided, the people who take corporate money, that kind of stuff. Now tell me about because since I played your video, other blue check reporter types have been sending me news articles about how the Boogaloo Boys are violent racists and terrorists, and they even killed a cop. And a couple of them got arrested on the way to a rally, a Black Lives Matter rally, and they had explosives. Now that's not made up, right? I saw it on
No.
60 Minutes.
No, that's not made up, and obviously we're an entire national movement. Hundreds of thousands of people. You're gonna have idiots. You're gonna have accelerationists and extremists and people that do things that we don't want them to do. And it's become even harder now that we're banned off of all social media that we can't even keep track of the idiots in our movement and deal with them. So that's been fun.
Oh, so you're saying that by suppressing the speech of the most extreme members and the most violent members, it's now hard to tell who they are.
Yeah, and a lot of people on Twitter and everything will be like, oh, you.
And more importantly, to expose them, right? Like, oh, this guy, yeah, he's not with us. He may claim to be with us, but he ain't. He a whack human. Or he's an idiot, or whatever.
You guys might not be neo-Nazis, but there are neo-Nazi Boogaloo people. And I'm like, well, I don't know where they are. I can't find them or talk to them. They're on a million different websites, so I can't deal with them. We can't go out and purge these people from our movement because we've been blown all over the internet. When we were all on Facebook, we had this under control. We never had this problem. But once we got banned off of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, I even got banned off of Google and PayPal. So
Yeah, I know. I know. And so you're saying the censoring of people more extreme than you, and actually people who are violent, the censoring of their speech is now actually creating a bigger problem because it's harder to identify those people and weed them out.
Absolutely. Like when we were all on Facebook and we would be in group messenger and everything, and a guy was like, oh, I had a really bad day. I think I'm just going to, do something stupid. I'm going to fly off the handle. We can't wait any longer. We could all talk him down and be like, no, that's stupid. Don't go out and do that. That's not what we're about. And we could all work that out. Now that guy is on some parlor chat buried deeply around a bunch of really iffy people egging him on. And there's no one there to tell him, hey, that's not what this movement's about. We're not here to just go out and shoot cops and commit terrorist attacks. It's never been what it's about.
So I've been told that the Boogaloo Boys want a racial civil war.
No, not at all. The whole calling it a Boogaloo, the whole meme behind it was just that it's a bad sequel to original because it came from the Breaking 2 Electric Boogaloo movie, which was just a bad sequel to a bad movie. And in our context, it just means some form of civil conflict, whether that be a peaceful singing revolution, whether that be some awful government civil war, whether that be a second revolutionary civil war, or to the idiot neo-Nazi types, they would consider it a race war. And that's a meme that's been around forever. So when it comes to us, we are more of we view this as a upcoming, hopefully peaceful second American revolution, where all of these groups, like I talked about, come together, and we tell these giant corporations and these two political parties that we're done with them. We don't want them anymore. And it's time to go.
And so you do understand, though, when people see you dressed in military gear with your beard and you're carrying an AR-15 or whatever that is, that immediately it scares the shit out of people, and that they think all bad things about you, that you are racist, that you want violence, and, you know, because the president just stoked the violence on January 6th and stuff like that. So you do understand that, though, right?
Yeah, I get it. You know, I have disagreements with it, but especially after this whole summer and everything, I've traveled around to a lot of events, and I can tell you now, everyone has guns. The BLM protesters have guns. The Proud Boys have guns. We have guns. The cops have guns. Everybody's walking around really armed. I had a gun pulled on me in Detroit over this summer by bikers when I was doing security for a BLM event, which was funny. So
you did security for a BLM event? How did that come about?
Because before the mainstream media even wrote a single article about us, we had blown up everywhere because all across the country, we were showing up to George Floyd events, because the unreported story behind all of this is we have a lot in common with the Breonna Taylor story. Because within 48 hours of what happened to Breonna Taylor, separately in Maryland, a man named Duncan Lemp was killed in a no-knock raid. The police shot him through his window and shot his pregnant girlfriend. They then lied about why they got the warrant. They lied and said they shot him from inside the building, when it came out only 2 weeks ago, almost a year later, they killed him from outside of the building. So then we started going out as libertarians, going out to BLM events with, you know, Breonna Taylor signs, Duncan Lemp signs, being like, hey, this is across the political spectrum. This police state thing that's going on, they're killing everybody. And we're out here and we're in support. We disagree with this. So all summer long, we did both marched in solidarity and in some cases did security for BLM events where you had these other groups coming to fight people. And we were welcomed with open arms across all of these. Like, I can send you a million Facebook posts and live stream of people being like, we're so happy you're here. We love you. And then the media establishment caught wind that there was armed white libertarian dudes marching in support with a bunch of socialists and BLM and everything. And they said, unacceptable. And they dropped the hammer. And that's when all of the Department of Homeland Security and anti-extremist researchers came out of the woodwork and like, oh, these are white supremacists. These are evil people. They're only there to kill people and everything. And the ride began.
So
now, I don't want to say that this dude and the organization are not a gang of dipshits. They definitely could be. But at least him, you know, their intentions could be to mean well. They could just be really dumb at getting that meaning well thing done. As I was saying before, you know, earlier. Right? It's like, oh, there's a bunch of neo-Nazi guys joining Boogaloo boys or whatever the fuck. It's like you can't allow that at all, right? If you claim to not be neo-Nazi and you have neo-Nazis around, it's like, you kind of got to root them out with or without social media. And it's like, well, how do you do that? Well, you end up knowing every single member of whatever organization. If that takes time, then so fucking be it. Those are things you have to do. Just saying.
you were actually welcomed by Black Lives Matter. You actually provided security for Black Lives Matter. You actually marched in solidarity against police violence because you realize it's not a left-right issue. It's a us against them issue, right? It's the cops against us. It's the establishment against us, and the laws all favor them, and it protects them. And you're right. I think I agree with that. How could you disagree with that? How about, and so tell us some more. Would the majority of the Boogaloo boys agree with your sentiments that you said in that video and what you're saying right now? Would the majority of the Boogaloo boys agree with you?
Absolutely. Like, it's pretty much our core foundation is if you're not a bigoted piece of shit and you understand that both parties are the problem and you're willing to do something about it and you're willing to get out in the streets and you're willing to make your voice heard, you're welcome. It doesn't matter where you come from or what you do. In that video, it doesn't show it, but I walked in, the woman standing next to me is a local BLM organizer for Lansing, Michigan, and I walked in with the local anti-fascist organization as well. So it wasn't just us standing up there. It was local BLM, it was local anti-fascist organization, and it was the Boogaloo. And we kind of represent this idea we've been pushing of the Unity Coalition. And we're growing pretty big in both Kentucky, Ohio and Michigan, to where we've been marching together constantly. There's a Boogaloo group in Kentucky, in Louisville, called the United Pharaohs Guard that's been out with BLM protesters every day since the very beginning, and they're welcome with open arms.
So, do you know the history of people who do this kind of thing? You know what it is, right? The people who try to combine the populist left, the populist right, to fight the establishment. You know the history of people who do this, right?
Yeah, we get mysteriously disappeared.
Yeah, and killed out in the open. I mean, that's what they do. That's what they did to Fred Hampton when he did this. But you're going to do it anyway. So you reach out to the Black Lives Matter. You reach out to Antifa. The Boogaloo boys reach out to Antifa. The Black Lives Matter. You march. You're anti-war. You're for peace. You're against racism. You're against police brutality. What else? What would be some other big things?
Pro-sex work decriminalization, legalize all drugs, end all the wars, close the ICE detainment camps.
Where did you get that from? Why are you against? So you're against the ICE detainment camps?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the border things, I'm more of an open borders guy. But even looking at it from a conservative viewpoint, if you got to deport people, then deport people. Why are you holding people in camps? Why are you holding people in these horrible, uncomfortable positions? If you don't want them in the country, then deport them. Why are you doing this? It's awful. It's inhumane. And if this was going on at any other time period under any other presidency, people would be burning the country down over it. Never again is what we said. But we're putting people in camps again.
So people. Well, I want to say who are your political opposites, but they're not, because the whole point of your thing is that we have a lot of agreement. And so what I've said on this show is that, the problems we're facing right now aren't left-right issues. They're oppressive issues that affect all of us. And so we have to fight those first so we can get back to fighting a left-right issue. That's what I look for. That's almost a luxury, being able to fight Democrats, Republicans. Right now, we know there's one party of war, one party of Wall Street, one party of big pharma and health insurance companies and fossil fuel companies. They own all, and Silicon Valley, by the way, which is why we're all being censored. Yep. So that, to me, that's the bigger problem right now that affects left, right, center, middle. It's a class war that we're in right now, right? You feel that it's a class war?
Absolutely, and that's where we butt into it with conservative groups a lot, because we're very anti-police. And they're like, why do you not support the police and everything? And it's like, well, as a gun owner, who's going to come and take that gun? The cops. As someone who likes marijuana, who's going to come and arrest me for that? The cops. So, we run into that trying to explain to people that, no, it is the top versus the bottom. It is not the left versus the right. We can argue about healthcare when we're not dropping bombs on foreign countries. We can argue about, how much we put into public education when people aren't having their doors kicked in and killed in their homes. Right. And it turns out to be the wrong address. There's more important things.
Oh, what the fuck was that? Some super spider on a TV. Just went like mad fast. But, yeah, as dumb guy logic as it gets. We can figure out this, whether we should have single payer or public option or straight up free market health insurance. Right? We can figure that out after we're not dropping bombs on people. After we're not poisoning our own citizens, poisoning their water. So, yeah, that's as dumb guy logic as it gets. But yet, some people are going to have a problem with this. They're going to have a problem with this. They probably won't even watch the interview. They'll just have a problem with it. And once again, that's not to say that this guy or his organization or Jimmy Dore are not dipshits, in my opinion. It just means, looking at it, clearly what they're saying will make more sense than to just ban them outright. Why? Because it's Jimmy Dore. What? Ban them. Why? Because they're Boogaloo boys, of course. You need to make a real detailed argument, document why we should intellectually write these guys off or write Jimmy Dore off. Which is why Seder's a cunt. He's coming from a dishonest place. And I think he knows it's dishonest. That's the cunty part. All right, here we go.
Things going on.
So yeah, so we would agree on the war. We would agree on the corporate control of our government. We would agree on police brutality. We're not going to agree on the Second Amendment. And we probably won't. What about healthcare? Because what do you? You know what? I'll tell you what. I go back and forth on the Second Amendment. I was always against guns, and then I was like, well, the only people who don't have guns in the country are the citizens. The cops have them. And then I went.
If you want to go into that really quick, I actually had. I'm assuming they were neo-Nazis, but I'm not sure. Show up to my house in the middle of the night after a protest and scream things I couldn't say on YouTube at my window at 3 a.m. And I called the police, and they told me they couldn't do anything about it, and that they weren't even going to show up to do a wellness check. So that's why I have that there.
Oh, okay. I hear you. All right. Yeah, I hear you. I'm back to being against guns again. I know. I'm back to being. This is the one issue I go back and forth on. I'm against them again because the cops are always going to have more guns. They're always going to have more guns, right? So, but because the argument was always, well, we need to have our guns to protect ourselves from the tyranny of the government, right? And to protect our rights. Except the government already took your rights away. They took away we live in a surveillance state. You have the Fourth Amendment's gone. And now they're taking away our freedom of. So when do you? I always say, well, you have your guns. Why don't you go get your Fourth Amendment back? And of course, that reveals that that's really not what it's about. The people like guns because they like guns, and you like it for your own personal protection. That's what you're saying. So it's not really about defending ourselves from the government, right?
Well, I definitely think when you talk about the more older right-wing guys that say like, oh, we will use our guns to get our Fourth Amendment back, and then they lick the boot. We're different. We're a younger generation. We're over that. Our event in Virginia that happened on the 18th, which was the day after mine, we showed up with Black Panthers. We showed up with armed leftist groups, and they recently passed a law that said you're not allowed to have guns in the capital of Virginia. And all of those groups walked in armed to the teeth, side by side, and walked in there because we're not licking the boot. We're not doing that. We're going to follow through on this. And, I've always said, you don't go.
You got to have more than a catchphrase for that shit. To walk in buildings armed with guns. You gotta have more than, we're not bootlickers. You gotta have more than that. And you definitely gotta do a lot more vetting within your organization if you're gonna be carrying around guns. Also, I don't see what you're gonna do with it. I don't see what you would do with it anyways. So what do you do? Well, the cop shot one of us. You're gonna shoot back? Yeah. Yeah, your movement, all of it is done with. As soon as someone pulls the trigger back, as soon as someone points a gun at a cop or someone else, it's over. Yeah. Yeah.
Go out and start a fight with the government. Just stop participating in the government and prepare yourself because it'll come to you. If you're doing a rent strike, if you're doing a tax strike, you don't have to go on the offensive, but they will come for you afterwards.
Yes.
And that's when you defend yourself, if you feel that way.
So people say, why show up to the Capitol with a gun? Who are you looking to shoot someone at the Capitol?
Well, it's particularly at those very steps. We've showed up to BLM events and everything, and we've watched some of those ladies that were with BLM get jumped and get beat up and have their property torn up, and the cops just stood there, just watched it happen. So then the BLM people started showing up with guns. They have rifles, they have, they're concealed carrying, and we showed up as well, and that stopped happening. So it's more so towards the line of the police will not protect you anymore. At any of these events, they won't do anything for it. Just a couple of weeks ago in Louisville, there ended up almost being a gunfight in the street because a car blew through 2 lanes of traffic and drove straight through a Black Lives Matter protest and almost ran 3 people over and started shooting. And the police didn't do anything about it. They didn't block the road. They didn't pursue that vehicle. They didn't help anyone. They just stood there and watched. So that's kind of, where we're getting to in this country and why you see a lot of left-wing people not only purchasing firearms, but showing up to events with firearms is because the cops aren't going to do nothing. They don't care about you. They're there to protect property and the government. They don't care about the people.
I mean, Bernie Sanders works with people like Mike Lee, who's a pretty extreme right-winger in the Senate. I don't know if he's ever worked with Ted Cruz on anything. But you don't seem.
I think they co-founded, authored. What bill was it? I don't remember. They did work together once, though.
Oh yeah, Bernie and Ted Cruz did work together. Look at that.
Yeah.
And you don't seem as extreme as Ted Cruz to me. You don't seem as extreme as. You seem way more rational and reasonable. And I saw the 60-minute.
The separation is going to be the guns, right? That's going to be the separation to where they put him in the category of extremist. Right? It's going to be whether or not he has a gun. And it's like, for me, it's like, that's a pretty extreme measure to me. But I'm not going to, because I understand what the word extremist will sound like. So that's why I wouldn't call anyone that. But you can see why normies are going to be like, well, you're carrying guns, though. What happens if you don't get your way? You can see normies thinking that. Just saying. Here we go.
It's a piece they did on you, and or not on you, but on the Boogaloo Boys. And,
I was in that though, in that documentary for Lansing.
Oh yeah, you were in that. Okay. No matter how many times. Well, let me just. So we seem to agree on some of the big problems in our country. You and I. Would you agree that the corporate capture of our government's a big problem?
Oh yeah, we essentially live under a fascist state. If you define fascism as corporations and government working together, then we live under that 100%. You see the secret bailouts, you see the public bailouts, you see how these big corporations can do almost anything and they never go under. You don't hear about these mega corporations making one big mistake and falling apart like they're supposed to do under capitalism. They last forever. And definitely they're so in alignment and they work so hand in hand that I don't even consider them private companies. You see a lot of conservatives and libertarians being like, oh, Facebook's a private company. They can do whatever they want. They receive millions of dollars from the government. They get exclusive contracts from the government. They work with government, work with politicians daily. They're an arm of the government. We have the Department of Facebook.
So it's like they're using a socialistic policy to further their corruption. It's not real socialism, bro. Oh, these guys are going to call it's not real capitalism either. So I guess there's some sort of barrier there in the way of the actual idea. Anyways.
Facebook, essentially. It's not even a company anymore.
Right. Wow, that's well said. That's a good way to put it. I think it's a good way to put it. So we agree on a lot of. So what do you think are some of the solutions? Right? How do we fix the war problem? How do we fix the social media problem? What do you have any solutions?
I definitely think if we're talking in the realms of the cleanest and most least violent way to do it, I think mass non-participation, mass strikes, mass protests, tax strikes. Stop getting involved. I've told a lot of people that I like the idea of the Chaz of just declaring an area declaring itself being like, hey, we don't like your government anymore. We're not going to participate. If you're going to use my tax dollars to blow up brown kids in the Middle East, I'm not going to pay taxes anymore. If you're going to send your police departments into a certain neighborhood, or you're going to run a ICE detention facility in our city and we don't want it, then you're not getting my city taxes. I will not participate anymore. And people got to stop being afraid of the consequences of those actions and start putting their money where their mouth is.
To that, I say, that would be the number one tactic, right? No more crying and begging for this person or that politician to do this. Instead, just be like, well, you're not getting money. We're gonna start our own thing over here. What are you gonna do about it? Nothing. You're not gonna do shit about it. They're gonna try to do shit. They're gonna have to do a extreme PR moves. They're gonna have to do some shit like that, to where they really they're actually Nazis. Those are Nazis. You can't do that. You see a bunch of different races there. You see black, brown, white, all that. And it's like, well, actually they're Assad apologists. They're self-hating, and they love Bashar al-Assad, so that's why you shouldn't join them. They'll figure something. They'll find a member here or there, someone with a shady past. They'll use that. They'd be a PR spinning all over the fucking place. But yeah, I would say that's not a bad idea at all. What was it, head of state? Yo, I'm Osama bin Laden. I really love whoever the character was. Richard Lewis. I really love Richard Lewis. Now he's like, I hate America, but I love Richard Lewis.
Wow. I did not expect you to say some of the stuff you're saying. I certainly did not expect you to say that you wanted to get rid of the ICE detention centers and stuff like that. And that's fucking wild.
Politics is crazy in the new century here we have going on here.
So, but people would say that you and I that the people like me should not reach out or work with people like you ever. That's what people would say. Even though you're anti-racist, you're pro-LGBT, you're anti-ICE, you're anti-police, you're pro-peace, anti-war. I don't know what, but even though they already did. I don't know if you saw, but I don't look at my mentions on Twitter anymore for the last month and a half or so, because I don't like to see people I know say mean things about me. It hurts my feelings. So I don't, but my friends, were telling me that they were giving me a hard time about even featuring your video. Did you see any of that?
No, I didn't see any of that. I only saw glowing support, which surprised me because I've gone, the last 6 months being told. Alex Jones did a conspiracy theory about me. I was actually on his show. He said that I was a paid CIA informant to destroy the Second Amendment. So I'm used to catching it from both sides all the time. So
which is actually ironic because people think Alex Jones is here to basically curtail the conspiracy movement. Like you say an actual story, then you add all this acting and yelling and shit, and frogs. I'm dressed up like a frog. You took away the merits of the actual like water being like tampered with. So, yeah, people actually say that about Alex Jones. Take a real conspiracy, and then you stick marbles up your ass, as Patrice O'Neill might say. Here we go.
It was actually refreshing to see people in support.
So Alex Jones is your enemy on this?
Apparently I'm some CIA action. You see it a lot from the right and the left. Like if we'll go to a Second Amendment protest, and the left will be like, "What are you doing?" But then we'll go to a Black Lives Matter protest, and the conservatives will be like, "Oh, you guys are all communists, destroyers," And so, especially being libertarian and being in this
that
weird
is the
middle
game.
ground, just used to all sorts of people claiming a bunch of things about us that aren't true.
I think the Hawaiian shirts are a great touch. Honest to God. I know I'm not making a joke. I think it because you guys look scary. You're carrying fucking guns. You're in military garb. You got big beards, which Steph and I make fun of beards. We do that. Just so you know. I mean, you. All right.
Look, it's so luscious.
It is.
All right, I'll give it to you. I will say he's the first. Do you like his beard? I don't know. I generally hate beards, but he kind of pulls it off.
Hey, you make Tucker Carlson want to pardon Assange, and I make Jimmy Dore like beards. This is correct.
And so you guys are also against censorship, right? So you're for Julian Assange?
Yeah, free Julian Assange, free Ross Ulbricht, free Edward Snowden, free Chelsea Manning. I mean, I think Chelsea already got freed, but
yeah, but she didn't get pardoned. She got
pardoned.
She just got commuted, right?
Yeah.
So they can still mess with her.
Yeah, against all of that,
Wow. Well, it's going to be funny to watch people twist this interview to somehow attack us.
Well, they'll just say that I'm lying about all this. They'll just say that I'm making this all up to reach out to the left and that we're secretly infiltrating all of these groups, which is why we show up in Hawaiian and, are very loud. We don't, it makes perfect sense.
So you're saying it would be ridiculous that you guys are trying to infiltrate. You guys are easily identifiable by your Hawaiian shirts and your LGBT flags.
Yeah, if we were, sneaky white supremacists that were trying to infiltrate left-wing movements, we definitely picked the most inefficient and preposterous way to attempt to do that.
Well, the fight is top to bottom right now in America. It's not left to right. Chris Hedges has said that on our show. I've said that. Lots of people make that point. It's obvious. It's obvious that it's not a left-right fight anymore. And I can't wait to get back to the days that we could start fighting over how much to fund education and how much. But so what let me ask you. So just before we go, just to see, what about.
I'm not sure that was ever the case, Jimmy, but I get it. I get what you're saying.
Now, you're young. Have you ever been sick and seriously ill?
Oh, yeah. I have a nice suite of kind of autoimmune issues. So.
Oh, do you? Yeah. Now, do you have health insurance through your work or anything?
Oh, of course not. And I can't afford private insurance either because of our weird middle ground where we're not private, but we're also not public. We're this weird corporate in-between medical system. Doesn't work for anybody.
So you don't have health care? You don't have Obamacare even?
Nope.
Wow. Okay, so where do you fall on the health care debate? Do you think that everybody should get the same health care my grandmother does? Because I think so.
I mean, that one is one of the few ones I go back and forth on. My basic one, obviously, being an anarchist, I don't want any government. So when you kind of go to that, it's more of the extreme free market system.
But as an anarchist, you still want roads and bridges, and you want a sewer treatment system, and right? You want that kind of stuff, right?
Absolutely. And I think, I live in Michigan, so, people are like, oh, your taxes go to the roads. And I look outside, and there's potholes that could eat a Prius.
Right.
Where's my taxes going?
Right. That's the problem, right? I mean, everybody, so you agree on infrastructure spending, and I just think that healthcare is one of those things. It's like it's like grammar school, high school education. You just provide it to people. That's what that's the point of a government. You have to educate the people, make sure they have jobs, and you make sure they have health care and clean water. That's what a government, and protect us from foreign and domestic enemies. That's what a government's supposed to do. And that's why we're a failed state. because we have a system that renders 80% of the workers living paycheck to paycheck. Half the country can't afford a $500 emergency, and 90 million people don't have health care or uninsured. That's a third of the country. This is a failed state. It can't deliver the basic services to its people. This is a failed state, and we can't even get clean water to people in Flint, Michigan. And there's lots of other places around the country we found out where there's lead in the water all over the place. They just don't
water
talk.
lights on fire.
That's right, or the water lights on fire, and they just don't talk about it in the news because the news owned by the same cabal of billionaires. There's only 15 billionaires that own all the media in the country. So again, we live in an oligarchy. That media is there to manufacture consent. That's what people forget. They think when they turn on CNN or read the New York Times that they're getting the news. The first job of the reporters of the New York Times and the hosts on CNN is to manufacture consent for the establishment. That's their job. And if they get to tell you some news along the way, so be it. But that's their number one job, and that's why they want to shut us down, because we actually do tell you what is actually going on. We actually do tell you the news. And
Jimmy, why are you so focused on the Democrats? You need to bring up Fox News, too. You can't just say CNN, bro. Which is true, but when it comes from a dishonest cunt, fuck it. Fuck that shit.
and they can't handle that. Well, listen, anything else you want to... So you still, even without healthcare, you go back and forth because you fear the tyranny of the government. But it's not the government. It's the government just paying private people to give you healthcare. Just kind of like how the government pays private construction companies to build roads.
Yeah, they're awful at both of those things. That's how I view it.
Well, you know, the most popular health insurance program in the country is Medicare. You know that? Like all the old people love it.
I never bought the argument that we don't want this public service because of the people who will be running it. Like, okay, but what if those corrupt people aren't there? Now what? So you have to sort of put the policy in a vacuum, right? In a way, you have to put it there in order to say whether or not I support said policy. Right? Because adding in the context of, well, there's creepers in government, and if the creepers are running these government programs, it's like it's going to suck. I get that argument as well, but to say you support or not support a policy on its own, I don't think that works there. But I get it. Unless you make a human nature argument that the government will always be corrupt people. That's a whole different thing right there. But let's continue.
Yeah, and I was on that very briefly, and then I was kicked off for making $100 more than to be beneficial on it. So that was fun.
That I know, what a crazy. Well, I made the point.
Same thing with the COVID stuff, because I was a contractor before that. I'm unemployed now. I didn't receive a stimulus. I still haven't. I didn't get to receive unemployment. My business got no emergency relief because it was a single person, me, contractor business. So we just got told to get bent, have fun. No relief. I haven't even got my first stimulus. I'm waiting on my second one to see if that ever comes out. So a year contacting the IRS, contacting the government, being like, hey, where's my original $600? There's a lot of people that are in that situation right now, and the media won't talk about it.
It's a failed state. And so do you really fear a civil war? Like what would a civil war, like who would you fight?
I would think it would go full Syria. I think the government would just collapse, and you would have like 32 different factions fighting each other one day, being friends the next day, just like it was in Syria. I see things falling down because a lot of people are like, oh, it'll be Republicans versus Democrats. Well, I'm not fighting for either of those sides. You're not going to see Jimmy Dore carrying the flag of Joe Biden into battle. But there is a lot of micro factions. There's a lot of people that don't disagree, and the media has everyone so whipped up. And especially being on the ground, there's a lot of bloodlust. There's a lot of people that are like, screw this, let's just get it over with. And that's scary. That's really scary.
That shit wouldn't work, to be honest with you. Because then you're to the... Not only that of helping them justify either creating new laws or extreme forms of enforcement, but also just ideologically, somewhere in someone's subconscious, they're going to recognize, well, if you want to get things done, you have to shoot them up, shoot the place up. You're going to have to physically fight them, violently fight them. That's the only way things get done, right? That's going to be somewhere in people's subconscious. That's what this is about right here, Eddie, right? If it's like, I'm willing to take up arms because the government is corrupt and we have to defend ourselves against the government. It's like, well, that's just the American Revolution. It's just a repeat of it. Or yeah. So it isn't some, like, well, we're these people now. We have iPhones now. We're smarter. It's like, no, it's just the same thing, isn't it? As that. So, also my own ideas of, morality, right? Like Batman Begins. It's like, if I execute this man, like what separates me from the criminals? Nothing, right? You're willing to kill someone to get your way. Or you disagree with this person, so you kill them to get them out of the way. And it's like, oh. But isn't that what, like, a Bezos would do? I don't know. Or whoever. A Bill Clinton. Isn't that what they were doing? They're in our way. Kill them. That's the only way you can get your way. Is by getting them out of the way. You gotta murk them. Waco, just kill them. All right, here we go.
How big of a group of people would you say that are ready to go?
I would say probably 20% of both political parties are like ready to fight, and probably like 30% of them are starting to, eye the gun store and thinking about it. Because you even saw, what's it, John Bennon or whatever that.
That I don't agree with. I don't agree with that at all. Even the guys who carry guns, a lot of them are like, I don't know about that. I don't know about actually fighting an actual ground war with the government. I don't think that's the case. Yeah.
Idiot on CNN this morning that was saying we need to investigate all of these terror groups, and he included libertarians, which are just like a bunch of weed-smoking capitalists, and they included that as domestic terrorists. So we're getting towards that rapidly, and then obviously I think you're going to talk about it today. Facebook decided.
In fact, I would think that's something they would want. Is for that guy, that Boogaloo boy or whatever group, they want them to be like, you guys pull the trigger first, please do it. Exactly. Yeah.
Hiding that all the left.
So I understand. Once again, I understand the critiques of this guy, or you might even be critical of Jimmy not pushing hard enough on the guy. I can hear both of those. I could definitely hear both of those. But once we enter dishonest cunt territory, that's when it's like, okay. It's like, fuck off, essentially.
Wing political groups are no longer convenient to them, so banning them today.
I tried to tell people, everywhere when I was at the Young Turks, I'm like, you push for censorship, it's going to come back. You don't know that. You don't know that. They know that, and they don't care. And people because they're on the corporate algorithm, they don't care.
Right.
But anyway, it's scary what's going on. So you think that there would be an economic collapse, or economic collapse, which would lead to a failure of government completely, and then it would just kind of go off to warring factions.
Yeah, everything would go to hell. We already saw it in terms of economic collapse. I've lived through 4 economic crises so far, and I think it was like 32% of all U.S. dollars have been printed in the last couple months to go fund giving $200,000 to Syria, who we've been trying to go to war with since I've graduated high school, for some reason. So yes, I definitely see. They've
definitely been trying to go to war with Syria, and now we're going to do a story about Joe Biden is sending troops back into the oil fields. I wonder why we want to go to war in Syria. Literally sending troops into the oil fields. That was the headline.
Yep.
So
it feels like we're back in 2013. We just reset the clock, and Obama's president again. We're going to start bombing Yemen or something.
Right. We're going to go into Venezuela. They're going to overthrow Venezuela. They're going to go put more troops back into Iraq. They're going to put more troops back into Afghanistan. They're going to go into Syria. And who else knows where else? Who knows? I bet there's a couple of more African countries they want to go into.
John McCain's ghost is going to start appearing in Eastern European countries.
Yes, yes. So, Magnus Panvidya. Vidya? Did I say it right? How do you say it?
Vidya.
Vidya. A Boogaloo boy who is anti-racist, pro-LGBT, anti-ICE detention centers, anti-war, and anti-police brutality, and pro-Black Lives Matter. Thanks for coming on the show. And please come.
One thing real quick that I wanted to say very quickly to everyone watching, if you do find someone who is an actual neo-Nazi and has Hawaiian on, send me a message on Twitter and we will find them and deal with them. Help us deal with that problem, please.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming on the show, and we'll look forward to you out there for doing security at more Black Lives Matter protests.
Hopefully we won't have to. But thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
Okay, so there we go. There's the entire interview. Should I leave that up? I'll leave that up. Ugh. I mean, once again, I told you I'd probably be not bragging. I'd probably be one of the most. I could probably be the most honest in regards to watching something like this, because I've, the heavy criticisms of Jimmy Dore, the observing the cuntiness of Sam Seder, and then just some guy I never heard of, the Boogaloo boy. And I walk away with this. This interview, there's nothing wrong with having this fucking interview. There's nothing wrong with having, even if he said way more crazy shit, nothing wrong with having that interview and putting it up on YouTube or wherever for everyone to observe it and form opinions and to, okay. I might have a problem with Jimmy in regards to okay, maybe there's more questions you could have asked that could have gave the audience a better understanding of where this guy's coming from. There's some tactics from the Boogaloo guy that, this sounds pretty stupid. Maybe you shouldn't do this. But when it comes to Sam Seder, it's all bad. There's nothing here that I'm you can retain. Right? There's nothing redeemable about this statement. Forget about the debate with Brianna Joy Gray and just look at the bottom part. In that very moment, he was praising an armed right-wing militiaman who wants to destroy government. Did you get that from that interview? This dude's unraveling. Even the little parentheses, which undoes Medicare for all. Was that even a part of that argument? From really looking at it? I thought the guy was saying, the guy literally said, I'm back and forth in regards to single-payer healthcare. But his stated reserves about doing that is, if it's going to be in control of the government, and they suck. That's why I wouldn't want that. So, dishonest, cunty Sam Seder versus two people I believe are being honest, for the most part. Being honest, stating what they actually believe in, and actually meaning for this to go somewhere. I think Jimmy's looking for a unity. We all hate this creepy shit. So let's band together and go against this creepy shit. And this guy, I see, it's so obvious where the corruptions are that it isn't about strategical left or strategical right. It's the corruption still is in the way first. You can see that a part of his argument. Right? So, once again, there's actually something redeemable about Jimmy and the Boogaloo boy. Sam Seder, nothing. There's nothing there. It's an empty statement. Right-wing I didn't even read right-wing from that guy. Only thing right-wing I guess you could say is, I overly want a free market. None of the, and no bullshit version of it where the government's giving handouts to giant corporations. Right? That's not truly free market capitalism, as this guy might say. So, even that, right? You have the stereotypical pro Black Lives Matter, pro LGBTQ, whatever it is. Right? Those are on the surface left-wing stances. And then I'd consider, I flip-flop between single-payer and not having single-payer. Even that's an on-the-surface, stated, stereotypical, left-wing, seeming type of thing. So, yeah, essentially, be a real person, watch it, and come up with your own opinion. Don't just listen to what Sam Seder says as some sort of figurehead in regards to what is legit and what isn't. My God. All he has to say is right wing. That should have nothing to do with why you're against this. Unreal. That should have nothing to do with that. You say guy carrying gun, okay, maybe. But just right wing? No. Alright. This is such an easy take. Like I barely have anything to say because it's so on the surface obvious what the pragmatic opinion is. So, yeah. You tell me. Don't forget to subscribe if you feel like. Please comment whether you agree or disagree. All right, here's this. Do you agree or disagree in regards to what the Boogaloo boy was saying? I'm sure you already have an understanding of Jimmy Dore, but the Boogaloo guy, do you have are the points you agree with or disagree with? Do you agree with them completely? Do you disagree with them completely? It's part one. Part two is, are these cunty creepers like Sam Seder, are they justified in criticizing Jimmy Dore for talking to another human that they probably disagree on some issues? Do you have a problem with Jimmy Dore, who has his own channel and own show, having a conversation with another human, seemingly in an honest way, to where it's not about, I'm just going to make you look good, or I'm just going to make you look bad. Just straight up, I'm hearing you out. What do you have to say? Are you okay with that, or not okay with that? If you're not okay with that, you're probably a cunt like Sam Seder. Just being honest with you. But let me know. Please show me. Expose yourself. Don't forget to share, support, hopefully donate to Devon's Journey to Recovery. GoFundMe link in the description box. And with all that said, give this video. Do you have to pee? Because I'll wait longer. No? Okay. Please give this video a thumbs down.
Say you wanna get in.